Hey guys, this is FIDE Master Michel. Today we're gonna learn how to play Caro-Kann Defense. This is a very strong and solid variation against King's Pawn. It's fine for almost all levels. It's more or less easy to learn and play, so keep watching. We have Caro-Kann Defense on the board after the moves e4 and c6. The idea with this move is to support the advance d5 in the next to fight for the center. Something not so good with Caro-Kann is that in the first move we are not really developing any piece. The good side is that we are not blocking the light square's bishop, unlike, for example, French defense, where we have the same idea, but this pawn on e6 is going to be a problem and the bishop will have to stay inside the chain of pawns, and that bishop could be a problem during the middle game in many variations. So when we play Caro-Kann, we try to fight for the center, but in some way we try to fix the problem with the bishop. In this position, the main line for white is going to be d4, controlling the center with two pawns. Also, there is this line with knight f3 and knight c3. They call the two knights variation. We are going to take a quick look at this in the end of the video. And well, let's see how the main line continues. And then d4, of course we play d5. And here, three main options for white: to exchange, to advance, or to protect the pawn on e4. So let's see what happens on the advance variation. Then white is blocking the center. Now we can develop the bishop to f5, which is a very good square for that bishop. White can continue with knight f3, and then we play e6, protecting the center, but now our bishop is in a good position. It's not passive on c8. White can play here bishop e2, and then there are some ways to play. There is some knight e7 over here, but there is this line with c5. I think it's very well. It's the line I want to suggest in this video. We are not going to advance too much more with the theory in this advanced variation, but we need to know how we are going to continue, how are the general plans for the next moves and the middle game. We need to solve these problems over here with the undeveloped pieces. So in the next moves we will be playing ideas like knight d7, knight e7, knight c6, and the idea is that then the bishop can be developed over e7. That's a very common plan, very typical idea. In some positions we can also develop the knight over c6, and once there is a trade or something, we play knight to c6 and then bishop e7 as well. In other positions the knight could go somewhere on the king side, and then we play bishop e7. So the main idea is that we need to solve the development problems we have, and if we can do that and castle, we will have a very good middle game. The other line here is the exchange variation. So it takes d5, we recapture with the pawn, so we keep controlling the center. White can continue here with c4, which is the pawn off attack, and then knight f6 is very normal, knight c3 and e6, developing, controlling the center. After knight f3 we will play bishop b4, and well, the main line is c takes d5. Notice we never traded or took here on c4 to avoid to help white in development. Very often if we want to trade, we will wait for the bishop to be developed and then we can trade on c4. But well, in this position white just takes on d5, then we capture with the knight. We are not going to continue advancing here with the theory. This is a very common pawn structure. This is the isolated queen pawn. The idea here is that white will want to take advantage of a slightly better control in the center and play the middle game. Black will want to trade pieces and attack this pawn since it is isolated, and when we attack it, white will have to defend it with pieces. So that's what is going to happen in this pawn of attack, and of course it's a very interesting position, more or less balanced with chances for both sides. And finally we have the line where white protects the pawn, then we take on e4, knight takes e4. Here we can play a knight d7 modern variation, or bishop f5, which is the main line, which is the one I'm going to suggest. However, I want to highlight something on this knight d7 variation. There is a very interesting trick, and it is this move queen e2, and if we play here knight gf6, then we are falling for the trick. We are going to receive mate in 1 with knight d6 here. So the idea is that if you like modern variation with knight d7 and your opponent plays queen e2, then here we need to play something like e6, and of course avoid checkmate with knight d6. But well, the line, my favorite line is going to be like the main line, bishop f5, and after knight g3, bishop g6. White can play here h4, we will play h6, and after knight f3 we just develop the knight. And this is a very normal position, more or less balanced, maybe very slightly better for white at some point. In the next moves we are going to play knight f6, we are going to play e6, we are going to move this queen somewhere over here like e5 or c7, and also this bishop is going to be developed somewhere over e7, d6, or sometimes b4. And the idea is that very often we want to castle queenside. Also we can castle kingside in some positions, but maybe it's going to be a little more complicated since usually white castles queenside, so that will be opposite side castlings if we go over the king side, but it's also playable. But what I would suggest in general is to castle queenside, and as I said, we will have a middle game more or less equal, maybe very slightly better for white in some positions, but always with a very healthy pawn structure and with a good play for our pieces. Finally, we want to take a look at the two knights variation, and it is like this. When white doesn't play d4 to control the center with the two pawns, they can play knight f3, then we play d5 and then knight c3. This variation is more or less interesting for white. Here we will play bishop g4, just pinning the knight, and white should play h3, we will capture. The main line is going to be queen takes bishop. There's this line where white can capture with the pawn, and the theory suggests here e6, but I would like to suggest d4 here. This is very interesting. We will have an equal middle game, we have a space, and it's going to be a dynamic, asymmetric middle game, very entertaining, I think. So after bishop takes f3, the main line, as I said, queen takes f3, and then we just play here e6, and well, one more time, white is very slightly better. We have a very healthy pawn structure, very clear way to develop our pieces with knight d7, knight f6, bishop somewhere over the diagonal. So it's going to be very playable, and then we need to play chess. If you have any question or want to share your experience about when you played Caro-Kann Defense, feel free to write it in the comments. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Help my channel with some like if it was like that. Subscribe so you get notifications for my next videos. Never stop believing. See you in the next.